to The Kitchen Table, a show dedicated to helping you escape diet culture, gain trust with food, honor your body, and live a brighter life. Hello and welcome back to The Kitchen Table. I am so glad you're here. I'm your host, Alicia Brown, an anti-diet registered dietitian nutritionist. How are you doing this morning? Rather, how are you feeling this morning? Take a moment to just attune to your body. Maybe take a few deep breaths wherever you are. Just take a moment to ground yourself, collect yourself this Monday. It's a fresh start to the new week. And a thought that I had today is to invite you into thinking about what you might bring to the day today. What is something that you might need from the day today? Maybe from other things or something that you need to receive. What do you think that you need? What does your body need today? And what is something that you want to give out? What is something that you have to offer to your work today or to your family today or to those in your life today? What do you want to offer? What do you want to embody? Who do you want to show up as today? Just some things to think about. And you might be going a million miles an hour right now. You might be rushing to work, or you might be at the gym, or your mind might be in a few totally different places, right? But I encourage you, if you have a moment too right now with me, to imagine yourself, just you and me, at the kitchen table, sharing some warm drink, like coffee or tea or hot chocolate, and you're at this table with me. Just imagine we're at the kitchen table together. I have this candle lit. This candle I received from a friend as we moved into our house. I have this beautifully lit kind of florally candle. It's so beautiful. So we're sitting at this table, warm drinks, candle. It's snowing outside. And imagine that there's a fireplace nearby. Now, our house doesn't have a fireplace. Bummer, but there's a fireplace too. So there's this element of warmth and coziness, and it's you and me here at the kitchen table, and we are just enjoying ourselves here today. We are talking about little things and big things and enjoying each other's presence, each other's company, and engaging in thoughtful and purposeful conversation, very conscious conversation with each other as we are drinking our coffee, tea, or hot chocolate, and maybe having some pastries or something cute and fun and sweet as well. Okay, now that is a really beautiful experience. I wish we were all here at the kitchen table sharing in that experience this Monday morning. But what is some element of that experience that you really connected with? What about that experience sounds really soothing or comforting or fun to you? Is it the element of connection? Is it having some sweets? Is it having this cozy aroma with the candle lit and the blankets and the fireplace? What is it about that experience that I just created in your mind? What is it that you held on to about that experience? Because that whole experience in general of us sharing that time at the kitchen table is a very hygge experience, and that's what I want to talk about on today's episode of The Kitchen Table. I'm going to talk about this concept of hygge, and it's something that I have loved, and I bring it into my client sessions and into my life and into this new house that we just moved into just last week. It's this concept of coziness, friendliness, warmth, connection, groundedness, all in one place that only requires really two main things. It requires first an intent of enjoyment. An intent of enjoyment. To sit down and actually have the intention of having an enjoyable experience. The second thing that it requires, of course, is presence, groundedness, stillness, right? So this isn't having a conversation in front of the TV or, maybe it is, but maybe it's just having a really grounded and sharing experience where both people or maybe multiple people are really in the present moment. And maybe this is with other people, and maybe this is just you by yourself taking a bath, right? Maybe this is just you with this marvelous piece of cake, or maybe it's with this marvelous cup of soup, or whatever it is to you. But creating like this really comforting experience is a very hygge-like experience. So things that are hygge, I'm actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have this little book of hygge, Danish Secrets to Happy Living. Hygge is a Danish term, and this book is written by Meek Wiking, Wiking. I really love this little cute book. This is also a really cute gift. But let me talk about hygge and kind of like things that people associate hygge the most with. So hot drinks, candles, fireplaces, Christmas, board games, music, holiday stuff, sweets and cake and cooking and books and Sundays. Oh, doesn't that just sound like the most amazing things all in one place? And it also just like very simple too. It's like these really simple things that just with like a slight amount of intention or this slight amount of consciousness, intentionality, groundedness, we can create a very different experience. I know that you and I are so busy, right? Like, gosh, we're so busy and we are just trying to get through the day with our head on straight, get everyone fed and in bed at an appropriate time, right? Like all of these things, we're just doing our best every day. And I so know that. I so get that. But how could we maybe find little, small, imperfect ways of creating more of an experience, especially around meal times? That would be something very hygge of you or hygge of me to do. And today I want to share with you 3 tips of maybe creating a more hygge-like experience in your life. And I know that you're thinking, before I get in those 3 tips, I know you are probably, as you are imagining you and me here with these cups of tea, I have turmeric ginger here. I know you're probably imagining this really like comforting experience, right? Just to kind of go back to that for a second. I think in diet culture, we really think about emotional eating or comfort foods as 2 terms that are maybe bad or wrong or things that we feel guilty for even wanting or doing. Like we feel guilty if we emotionally eat, right? Like I've heard clients say to me, and I've felt this myself, of just like, dang it, I don't even know why I ate that. I was just emotional, right? I was just stressed and I don't even know why I ate that thing. It kind of becomes unconscious eating, that emotional eating. But it's also like a universal term that everybody understands. It's actually a very natural thing to emotionally eat. It's very natural. Everyone does it. It's a really universally accepted, a universally known term, a universally experienced term. We as humans have a tendency to emotionally eat. It's actually one ways that we can cope. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. And I want to just like take a few steps back in this conversation to really shed some light on that, to say like, I think emotionally eating really is okay. And I think that once we like lower the stakes on emotionally eating and we can understand our emotions more, we can understand what we need a little bit more, we can have a healthy relationship with food while emotionally eating, and we don't have to feel any physical, mental, or emotional anguish or discomfort out of that experience. We can move on from that experience in a healthy way. And also we can find other ways to cope other than using food every time as the means to cope as well. So that maybe is another episode that we'll do on the show on emotionally eating. But as we're talking about having this comforting experience, I think it's fitting to talk about emotional eating for just a moment and just to really normalize that experience. Head nod with me right now. Like, are you in agreement that yes, emotional eating should be okay? This should be an okay experience. There's no need to feel perhaps any guilt or shame. Of course we do, because we live in a society where we just demonize that act, right? We just feel so badly for eating, maybe unconsciously or emotionally during those times, when really it's a very human experience. The second thing I want to call to attention before I get into my 3 tips is to talk about comfort foods. It's cold. We had our first snow out right now. I'm actually, I should just describe for a moment, like I'm sitting, I have no furniture in this house really. Like there's really no furniture, but I had this couch in a prior apartment. So I'm sitting on this nice, cozy gray couch. I have this like really fuzzy blue blanket. I have this candle lit right here by me from a friend that I got as I moved into this house. It was like a housewarming gift. I love it. Thank you so much. You know who you are. So I have this candle. I have a cozy cup of tea right here, turmeric ginger. And this is a comforting experience right now that I'm having, even being with you here on the show. So like, thanks for enjoying this with me. Love it. And what would be fun tonight were to if we enjoyed some sweets together at the kitchen table with you, with me, with this candle, with this blanket, with this tea right now. It would be fun. It would be a fun experience maybe to have some like little cute cakes. I love those little French macaroons. For dinner tonight, I was really craving some like hearty lasagna. Like sometimes during these times of year, we can crave comfort foods, especially when it's colder outside. Comfort foods can feel, well, really comforting. And I don't think there's anything to demonize about craving comfort foods either. No, absolutely not. In fact, it's natural to sometimes want opposites with our food intake. When it's hot outside, we want cold things. When it's cold outside, we want warm things. That's part of like Ayurveda actually too. There's very medicinal qualities in some regard in Ayurveda. That's part of a Hindu tradition, practiced widely around the world, and more specifically in India, where Ayurveda and talking about like balancing with opposites is a very common practice. And they acknowledge that we might want warmer things on colder days and colder things on hotter days. And so just acknowledging that desiring comfort foods right now is something, again, totally normal. And maybe you could offer yourself permission to eat those comforting foods, either with a friend, sharing a moment, or for dinner, or whenever feels right for you. Cool. So hopefully by now you have this idea of what hygge is. Again, it's Hygge, hygge, creating a comforting, enjoyable experience. Okay, 3 elements that you can incorporate into your eating and in your life that are very hygge. 1 is to slow down and enjoy the process of cooking. Even if it's not the food itself, it is the process of cooking it. When was the last time that you actually enjoyed being in the kitchen? Now, I know maybe you're thinking, I hate cooking. Or maybe you're thinking, I love cooking and I have no time. Or maybe you're thinking, gosh, I just don't know what to cook. I understand all of those elements of friction in this, absolutely. But food is so much more than sitting at the table and enjoying it. Slowing down and thinking about the process and finding ways of making the process more enjoyable can actually lead to an overall, comforting, enjoyable experience for many, for the whole family even. Think about ways that you can involve the family or friends in a food experience, right? Like, what can we do from start to finish of making a meal at home? How can we add more intentionality? How can we add an element of fun? How can we find ways of incorporating maybe new or different foods into the scene and finding maybe some curiosity on how to improve a recipe or curiosity in trying a new recipe? What can we do to kind of add more fun to the food experience and maybe slowing down and really thinking of that experience as one that can be enjoyable? In the book, it said the rule of thumb is the longer a food takes to cook, the more hygge it is. This is where I disagree a little bit. The book goes into more depth thinking about like having something simmer on the stove and like it unleashing its aromas into the house, or something that is in the slow cooker or in the oven, and just like needing some time to cook as you prepare a sauce, right? Like really taking a moment, or a Saturday or a Sunday, to really think about all of the elements of the cooking experience and enjoying it. Now, I'm of the thought of needing to meet in the middle between like having this super busy life and also wanting to be as intentional as that example that I just put out there. Somewhere in the middle might look like making something quick, semi-prepared that you enjoy, but actually thinking about the experience and trying to enjoy the experience a little bit more. So even if you're making something as easy as macaroni and cheese, how can we enjoy that experience a little bit more? Do you want to play music in the background? Do you want to maybe like make a little station of like where you can add fixins into your macaroni and cheese? Maybe there's like different kinds of cheeses that you want to try in there. Maybe somebody likes broccoli in their mac and cheese. Maybe somebody likes hot dogs in their mac and cheese, or chorizo, or there's so many things that you can do even with something super simple and easy to make like mac and cheese. How can we up-level that mac and cheese? How can we add something new or fun to that mac and cheese experience? And slowing down to be intentional intentional about thinking about what might make that experience more enjoyable. That is where the creativity happens. That's where the enjoyment can happen. And so note the points of friction right now in your current food process as you're thinking about what's for dinner. A question that usually comes up in client sessions of thinking about what's for dinner. Like there's friction of just like what it is. Ask yourself this question and put this in your back pocket of what sounds good to you right now. That's a great question. Like what sounds good? Even better yet, what feels good to you right now? That is an excellent question. What would feel good to you right now to eat? What would feel good to you right now to eat? So keep that in your back pocket when you're kind of encountering like, I don't know what to make. What would feel good to you right now to eat? Or maybe if you don't even want to decide or do that kind of exploration, asking a friend or a family member, what would feel good to you to eat right now? I'll make you extra. I'll send it over. That would be hygge. That kind of friendship that like, hey, I'll make extra. You don't want to cook tonight? I'll send some over. Very hygge. Very Danish and hygge and happy. How nice would that be to receive some food from a friend? Oh, I love that thought. Usually the friction that comes into our food, into our meal times or into thinking about meal times or thinking about food is what, when, and how. So think about that what sounds good or what feels good to you right now. When do you want to eat? Do you want to have like a goal time frame in mind? And how to make something. Do you want to plan a recipe? Do you want to do something you've always done? Thinking about those things can help you reduce the friction and have a more enjoyable food experience as well. So think about those three things so that you can enjoy the process maybe a little bit more as you give more intentionality to what, when, and how. Notice I didn't say like how many calories, how many grams of each macronutrient, if it's healthy enough. No. I'm talking about practicality. I'm talking about enjoyment and comfort here. We're taking a break from all of that healthy, quote unquote, jargon that disconnects us from our bodies and makes sometimes a very unenjoyable experience with food. We're taking a break from that. We're jumping into pure enjoyment here. And in order to have pure enjoyment, we must allow ourselves permission to eat any and all foods. We must allow ourselves that permission. That goes back to the core concept of intuitive eating, that we have to allow ourselves permission to eat these foods as we're eating them, as we're enjoying them, or else feelings of guilt and shame and resentment will arise. And that will come up and take away from our food experience. That will push us further into the dieting paradigm, and that will keep us feeling really stuck and sometimes sad and sometimes alone in those food choices. Hygge is all about bringing people together around food and having an enjoyable experience together. In order to do that, we have to allow ourselves permission to eat these foods, and we have to let everything else go, and that can be really, really hard. But I invite you into thinking about what that might look like. That's what the show is all about, incorporating that thought of intuitive eating into our lives so we can have more enjoyable food experiences. Moving on to the second point, coffee. His second point is just one word, coffee. I know that you're coffee drinkers on here, most of you anyway. On my first episode, on the intro actually to the show, I talked about my love for coffee and actually how I love coffee if and only if there is heavy cream available, or else I'll pass on coffee altogether. Actually, I love heavy cream. It's one of my favorite ingredients just to like add to foods. It has like this richness that I just love. Heavy cream is like a blanket. It is like, heavy cream is my love. And so I love coffee with heavy cream. And actually there's a term in the book, this little book of hygge. There's a term in the book that's cafe hygge. It's spelled Kaffehygge. They like took the two words and put them together. And it's the thought of inviting a friend to have an experience with coffee. Coffee with cake, coffee after a workout, or coffee while knitting or yarning or doing some kind of fun activity. It's the thought of like pairing those two things together. So for your next coffee date that you have with a friend, how could you make it a more enjoyable food experience where you feel really grounded in the present moment and grounded in desiring to connect with that person? Maybe you give them a little gift. Maybe you pay for their coffee. Maybe there is something that you could add to that experience to make it a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more special. How can we create more special experiences? And I think coffee is a part of that, right? Like we get coffee with other people. But there's something to that, even the thought of that, even of like having that coffee be the means of the meeting, so much like food being the means of the meeting for Thanksgiving and also for Christmas, right? Even like for holidays and small get-togethers, food is often a big part of that. It is either the activity or the means for the meeting. So I love that thought. And even as a separate note, if this is not like a meeting with somebody, how about just like your morning experience with coffee? How could you make that a little bit more special? How could we take the prior tip of just like slowing down a little bit? Is that something that sounds fun for you in the morning? Like maybe you like to ground yourself a little bit in the morning, or maybe this is something that you try on, of having a cup of coffee and instead of rushing out the door, waking up a little bit earlier and sitting down and enjoying that cup of coffee at home. Or maybe enjoying that cup of coffee for just 5 minutes before you start your workday. Or maybe adding some different type of creamer. Or maybe you try heavy cream to your coffee, or maybe some type of syrup or whipped cream on the top. Or maybe if you don't drink coffee, you try something else, hot chocolate or tea or something else that can feel really soothing, really grounding, but actually taking a moment to pause at the start of your day to really sink into that experience. It can be a really awesome experience. And maybe that's when you think of what you want to bring to the day. What do you want to bring to the day? What do you want to bring? Energy? Do you want to bring life? Do you want to bring brightness? Do you want to bring confidence? What do you want to bring to the day? That's something that I often ask myself in the morning. What do I want to bring to the day? And you might think of that at your next coffee time in the morning as you ground yourself. The last thing that I want to share with you is this little tip that I thought was so great in this little book of hygge. And it was in this like little section. It was like an anecdote in the book, and it said like how to make memories. And after reading it, I thought a great way to make memories is to start new traditions, and to start new traditions surrounding food for yourself or for your family, especially the holidays. They're coming up now. Do you want to start maybe a new tradition of getting the kids or your nieces or nephews or family together to make cookies or make something new, or to bake a cake together, or to do some activity together surrounding food? How could food be the means of tradition as you enter the holiday season? What is something maybe new or maybe already traditional in your family that you like to make and to share? What are some traditions that you have in your family that maybe you haven't dove right into yet? What is something that maybe your mother, your grandmother, your father, maybe someone else that you love, a tradition that they've done every year but you've never learned yourself? For example, my mom, she always makes this green bean casserole and everyone loves it. Unfortunately, it's not gluten-free. So I haven't enjoyed it in years, but I've been wanting to make a gluten-free version of green bean casserole. And that is a way that I can uphold that tradition for my own family, so that I can first enjoy that experience and continue to make green bean casserole during the holiday season. How amazing is that? And so like, what is some tradition like that for you that you can carry on with your family this year? Just a thought that I have to share with you, because I think there is... We hold such nostalgia with foods, right? Like nostalgic foods, this powerful, it brings memories back, right? Like, there used to be this gum that had like tiger stripes on it. Maybe you've heard of this before. But I just saw it recently and I had a piece and it like shot me right back to like my 5-year-old self having this gum. And so it's like so powerful, but we have to create that. We have to create these memories for our families. We have to create foods for the family that they enjoy with this intention to set a tradition or a ritual or something that really brings the family together. And I think that's what hygge is all about. And I think that's what food actually greater is all about. It's one of the things that really prompted me to really pursue my degree in nutrition and dietetics after recovering from my eating disorder. This thought, this belief that food can actually bring people together, and it can be something that everyone can enjoy, everyone can find comfort from, and something that can be a really blissful and fun experience. And so those are my 3 things. Take a longer time preparing your food. Slow down. Enjoy the process. Notice points of friction in your food experience and ways to overcome them, especially regarding the what, when, and how. Second, think about coffee. Think about how you enjoy your coffee in the morning or with friends. How could you make that experience more special? And thirdly, how can we make more memories with food? How can we dive into more traditions with food and share it with those that we love? And think about instilling new traditions and also grabbing hold on old traditions with our families. Cool. Well, that is all I have today. Again, the book that I was referencing for this episode is The Little Book of Hygge, Danish Secrets to Happy Living. I love it. I love the concept, and I want this new home that we moved into to be a very hygge home. And I appreciate you enjoying this episode with me and imagining yourself here with me at the kitchen table. I was really comforted by that thought. And so if you love this episode or felt it fun or refreshing, especially regarding what's happening in the world today, we might have needed this refresher, right? We might have needed this thought of groundedness and intentionality, certainly. And if this is something that you feel someone in your life might benefit from right now, feel free to screenshot and share this episode with them. Or there's actually like a sharing button right where you are listening to from, either in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also rate and please subscribe to the show. Thank you for doing so, or taking just a moment to rate, subscribe, and share. And I look forward to seeing you at Thursday's episode. Cool. Have a good day.